Most videos you see of Arc Raiders include pleasant raids full of friendly players, lots of loot, and good times. But there's a dark side to the game that you don't always see.
How'd that feel, boy? How'd that feel? How'd that feel? How'd that...
So the question is, do we solve this problem by offering a segmented mode for players who don't want a PvP? I don't think so. Here's why. I want to start off by saying that I think wanting a PvE only mode is a valid and somewhat logical response to the PvP problem in Arc Raiders. And there are a few reasons for that. I mean, one is that it's a major part of the game, right? The Arc are terrifying. They were made to be an antagonist to the universe of Arc Raiders, right? They are the people who forced humanity underground, and we're supposed to band together as the last remnants of humanity to take on this threat. And on top of that, in those moments when we do collaborate and work together to take down Arc, generally those moments stand out. A lot of times they're very wholesome, with everybody working together and sharing loot and extracting, and everyone's happy. In a PvE only mode, there'd be a lot less worrying about losing your loot. You wouldn't really have to worry about the threat of being ratted at extract, or just taken out by a confused player who doesn't have a defibrillator or something like that. The only real threat to your loot would be dying to the Arc, which, let's be honest, happens probably more times than we'd want to admit. Something else is that we would be able to have more consistent quest completion with a PvE only mode. We could load into raids and we could just focus solely on completing the quests that we are currently working on. We don't have to worry about some player taking us out after we found our last industrial battery or motor or whatever item you're trying to find in raid, that it's been like 30 days since you accepted this quest and now you can't find this one item that you've seen like 70 million times before you hit accept on the quest from the trader. It's a grind sometimes, and grinding only feels good when there's an actually guaranteed payoff. And lastly, I don't think that a PvE only mode would be too easy. You know, I think it'd be very easy to ramp up the difficulty of the Arc, or introduce new Arc and larger ones that require people to collaborate to take down, and it'd be very easy to make the mode difficult still, right? So I just wanted to start this off by saying I do think that it is a logical conclusion to say a PvE only mode for people who want to PvE only makes sense. But here's why I don't think it would work. Now, I enjoy a good PvP fight every once in a while. Okay? Every once in a while, it's okay.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But I always do it when it's appropriate to do so. If somebody shoots at me first or is, you know, acting suspicious, I will say there's a little bit of distrust in me, because I come from other extraction shooters like Tarkov or Arena Breakout, where you don't trust anyone. And if you are foolish enough to do so, you get immediately punished for it, right? And that's why Arc Raiders is such a breath of fresh air, because the idea of collaboration exists within it, but the PvP is also still part of it. So I generally lean towards being friendly by default, but I'll stand on business if I need to. Even if I only win like 1 out of 10 fights, it's fine. And occasionally I enjoy it, right? There's nothing that feels better in a game since what Modern Warfare 2 lobbies back in the day, right? Of somebody's trash talking you and then you show them up with skill, right? I mean, hey, that feels good. There's like a primal human feeling, right? Of comeuppance. All right. Reason number 1 why I don't think a PvE only mode would work. And this isn't necessarily logistically work. This is my arguments for why it should still all be combined. Reason number 1 is that Arc Raiders is a hostile world. This is a world that is basically forced all of humanity underground into these tunnel systems. The overworld is ruled by evil robots, and we are forced as raiders to go to the surface and scavenge for our survival needs. That's a pretty hostile world. I would say it would be unnatural if there weren't some sort of contention between the humans, right? Because, I mean, think about it. Just look at the world outside, all right? There's contention everywhere. You think of worlds like Fallout, right? That demonstrate the depths of human depravity when such scarcity and such hostility is created in the world, right? Arc Raiders exists as a universe semi-like that, with a bit more wholesome of a twist, with encouraging the collaboration of taking down different arc or completing different missions. So ultimately, removing hostile players would just make the world feel fake, right? It's a flavor fail, because the idea that all of humanity is pushed underground and is forced to scavenge on the surface, and suddenly no one is taking advantage of those opportunities, that would just defeat the entire ambience and immersion of the world. Reason number 2 is that it would create an economy imbalance. If there was a mode that you could drop in without the risk of any hostile players and only Arc, right? Like, you are forced to collaborate with other people, there would be no reason to risk PvP, right? When you can just farm items, you can take down Arc safely without having to worry about hostile players being in the mix. And so there'd be absolutely no reason to PvP or play in PvP lobbies if all you're doing is farming or finishing quests or, like whatever. You would be able to stack up near limitless resources without any threat of losing any of it. Which leads me to the next point of, it defeats the purpose of an extraction shooter. The entire point of this game and games in this genre are that there's always a threat of losing your stuff. And I think that because Arc Raiders became so mainstream and it drew so many people to it, it has become something unique in the extraction shooter world. It's something that doesn't really exist in any other game, and it's attracted a lot of people from outside the genre into it, which I think is amazing. That's why I think that it's like the multiplayer game, because it gives you so many freedoms. But at its core, it is still an extraction shooter. And if there's no risk to losing your loot, it becomes something else. An extraction shooter is, at its heart, the idea of greed, right? You go into a raid, you collect as much loot as possible, and you have constant anxiety that you're going to lose what you found or what you brought in at all times, because that's what makes it so immersive, is that you are staking actual stuff on these runs and on your skills. And so when you take stuff in, there's always a chance you're gonna lose it, right? Loot comes and goes. We can't get so attached to the loot. And lastly, I think this is the most important point, because I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but with PvP as an option in the game, it gives players free will, which is why those wholesome moments of collaboration feel so good. Because without the threat of villains or rats or, just hostile players in general, those moments of collaboration or absurdity are just dulled, because there's no other option. What else are you supposed to do other than just, morning, sir, good morning, sir, right? You don't have to worry about somebody camping at extract. You don't have to worry about some guy in a friendly lobby turning on everybody, right? The cooperation feels good because betrayal is possible. And if betrayal isn't possible, then what other option is there than cooperation or just minding your own business? The game needs villains in order to make those moments of collaboration and wholesome interactions actually collaborative and wholesome. All right, so let's get to the conclusion with a positive outlook for both sides of the table. I think that what Embark is doing with Arc Raiders is fantastic. The event that's been going for like the past week, the shared watch event, is awesome. That's a really cool way to respond to unrest in the player base of, some people wanting PvE only mode, some people wanting still the option to PvP, because shared watch encourages the collaboration, but still leaves the threat of there being players who don't care. But it also increases the chances that you're going to be put in lobbies that punish those players that decide to PvP in those areas, right? I think that that's a really great solution to this problem, is having these events that keep everything fresh, where the game is almost constantly evolving. It's kind of PvP focused right now, right? And then it's kind of PvE focused right now. And it's, as humanity, we have to adapt, right? We have to adapt in order to survive. That means taking out other raiders in this season right now because there's a shortage of something, then unfortunately, we got to do what we got to do. But if it's the Ark are in swarms and we have this incentive to take them out and, you know, collect their parts and we get extra bonuses for taking them out, then congratulations, we're all working together to do this, right? To get this done. It's like a Helldivers command almost, right? Where everybody's working together to achieve this command. I think that creating larger threats and new Ark that can't realistically be taken down by single teams or, you know, like solos and stuff like that, I think that will heavily promote collaboration in the future, right? It'll kind of mix up the repetitive nature of raids, and it will add a new cool thing to do other than PvP. Because ultimately, I think PvP is going to be what keeps this game fresh, right? Because if you can stockpile great guns and you can stockpile great gear, but you never use it against other players and stuff, then it defeats the purpose, right? You gotta live extraction shooters with open hands, right? You gotta have your loot in open hands, because guess what? It's just gonna cycle through, right? Some days are gonna be down days and some days are gonna be up days. You're gonna get more loot. Trust me, it will all come back to you eventually. Especially in a game like Ark Raiders, where you have unlimited free kits. You can go in naked and come out completely looted. Like, it's a very forgiving game in the genre, I will say. Another point is that I think that what Embark is doing with the aggression-based matchmaking is a really cool idea that I would be excited to see developed further, right? Because this is kind of a new concept in games, because there isn't really another game that has this level of derision between the player base that wants PvP and PvE, right? So aggression-based matchmaking feels like a very elegant solution to this problem. The idea that if you crave PvE lobbies, then the more lobbies you aren't aggressive in, the more friendly lobbies you're going to be put in, is a really cool concept. But I also really like the concept of it still doesn't eliminate the threat that there could be an unfriendly player in your lobby, right? There could be somebody who's willing to take them out, which leads me to think about this. What feels better? Knowing there's no ways someone could ever touch your loot, right? That you're just completely safe, or having someone try to steal it and watching the entire lobby gang up on them and call them names as they go back to Speranza, right? That feels better, in my opinion, when everybody bands together to punish the people who want to rat or be the villain, right? But I think the option to be the villain is very important for the lifespan of this game. And maybe the tension is the point. When there are no real world consequences, we get to see how people choose to act. Some cooperate, some exploit, some betray, and the game doesn't tell you which one to be. I don't think we'll ever find a perfect balance that's fun for everyone, but I think the current state of Ark Raiders is pretty dang close. Embark is very passionate about this game, and I am excited to see what they do with it. But I do think removing either aspect, PvE or PvP, from the game would end up destroying what the game is supposed to be. Those are just my thoughts. What do you think? Are you a PvP enthusiast? A little rat, perhaps? Or do you prefer the more chill gameplay of PvE only? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.